We are live. We are live. And go.
I just wanna be free with my people to prosper and hold it down. Don't you sit and wait, contemplating on a revolution. The time is now. I just wanna be free. I just wanna be free. I just wanna be free. I just wanna be free.
Okay. Another episode of the Things I Wish I Knew About Money podcast. I'm your host, Camille Smith, and I have two lovely ladies here with me. Elizabeth, Michelle, please show your faces.
Hello.
So I'm excited because it's been a very long time since I've had a guest. And now I have two, and it's just amazing because, we're able to talk about things that we're passionate about, as you can see in the title. And it's funny how we're virtually meeting, but I met your sister at Christopher Lawrence's pop-up, and the way that she spoke, Loretta, correct?
Yes.
So Loretta, we met and we're having a wonderful conversation. I was like, okay, we definitely have to meet. But, due to other plans, it's okay. I got two of her lovely sisters, and I just wanted you ladies to introduce yourself.
All right, so I'll go first. My name's Elizabeth. So I am the middle child, but I am before Michelle. Oh my goodness, I got to think about that for a second. Isn't that shameful? So for me, I've been with our team has been together for like a year or so, a little bit more than a year. But as for myself, I had quite experience, and now I'm glad to be here doing real estate with both of my sisters.
That is beautiful. Yeah. Michelle.
So I'm Michelle, and obviously the M in Elm, and the youngest. And so I've been in the real estate industry for about 15 years. I also worked as a real estate law clerk for many years, and doing like the back end administrative part of real estate at a few brokerages when I was younger as well.
Nice. Okay, so when I was reading the bio, I was really excited about how you ladies, formed the team as I call it like as a family business. And whose idea was it first?
Elizabeth.
So the middle child is takes the lead. Okay. And is it based on just the background that you ladies have, or just history? What's the journey that you ladies were going through since you're young and all that great stuff?
Well, for us, I think the idea came because, at that point in time, I was working and I knew I wanted to do something more. And I saw Michelle, how much she was thriving into real estate. And I wanted to start a family business. And I wanted to get in real estate so many times, but I was just, I guess, kind of scared, not really knowing what exactly I was getting myself into. And Michelle, she was thriving, and I was helping her, and I was enjoying helping her, with her business. So even though I wasn't licensed, I was still going with her and helping her. And eventually I said to myself, we should probably do this as a family business. And then I started to speak to her about, my desires to help women and people of color. And then she started talking to me about her desires, and the same thing with Loretta. And it just seemed like it just all kind of fit, and we all wanted to do the exact same thing. So that's kind of how it started.
Nice. And I bet your family is very proud of you.
Yes.
Yes,
Right.
very
Oh,
much
great.
so.
People can get the house and everything.
Because, a lot of people think that, with family, you can't really do a business, or you can't do business or be in business. And I think this kind of proves that it can be done.
Exactly. Actually, that's a great way to put it, because you guys been together, like working together for a year and a bit. So
Yes.
what are the pros and cons, or the highlights and the challenges?
So for me, I would say that one of the good things about working with your sister is that you already know them. So when you start off in a business, you have to get to know your coworkers. You may or may not like them. You have to, check out their personalities and stuff. But when you're working with your sisters, you already know your sisters. So it's not about getting to know the person. So that is the pro, but it's also the con. And the reason why is because they are your sister. You know how to get under their skin. They know how to get under your skin. And, there's that whole like butting head sometimes as sisters, because you have that familiarity with each other. So it's also kind of, I wouldn't say a challenge, but sometimes it's like trying to see that person as not just your sister, but as your business partner. So trying to put the professional at a different corner as the fact that you guys are sisters and probably friends and stuff like that as well.
Elizabeth, what about you?
I was hit the exact same thing. We do have different personalities, and the thing is, we're all like fire women, all like leaders. So, and we're all outspoken. So, you put us in a room and so together, and we might just fight it out. But at the end of the day, we all know that we have a goal in mind, and we know that this is bigger than us. We know this is something that we want to build for our children, right? So this is all about building generational wealth for us as well, our family. And as we have this desire to see our family grow, then that surpasses any other kind of, situations or problems that we have. But other than that, like, it's really great though, because it's like we know each other. Even though we know each other and we could get under each other's skin, we also know each other to say, you know what, maybe I need to back off a bit, because it's just let me let her kind of calm down a bit before we get into it too tough.
And I love how you said you're all ladies of like fire and leadership.
Yes.
How does that, and this is like a random question, how does that play a role like in your personal life? Because I know one of you are married.
All three of us are married.
All three, okay. As married women, okay. As married women, and this is just a random thought, like having that leadership. Is it okay having that leadership in your like marriage? Like your husband see that and you're like, okay, you know what? Take the role, like it's your business. We're good. You can do your thing.
Yeah, I think that like having a business and being married, it's kind of good because you can speak to your spouse and get their opinions. But I think all of our spouses respect the fact that it's our business that we're growing, and as much as they're a part of it, and we respect their insight and value their insight, but they let us take the lead of the business, and they're there as like our biggest supporters, and to again just give us inspiration when is needed and encouragement, and just to be there to support us.
That's amazing. It's always amazing to have that support system.
Yes.
Even though you ladies have the support system within each other, but your husbands being able to be the cheerleader and supporter, that's big up your husbands. Big up them, because I know it's sometimes tricky. But also, how was there any, or no, I wanna go back to like your careers. So what made you get into real estate and credit and mortgages and all that good stuff? Because that's key. Because a lot of I find that a lot of people don't see the value in personal finance, but I'm happy you ladies were able to find that value. And how did it fall in your lap? Because I know you were in the real estate, a law clerk. So that kind of drops into your lap, but the whole aspect of it.
Yeah. So when I was younger, I always loved real estate. When I was younger, I always used to pretend. I knew from a child that I was either going to be a lawyer or a law or a real estate agent. And I would always pretend and act out both of those careers. So I've always loved real estate. I always loved the fact of going and showing houses and, you know, doing the whole negotiation, because as was said, like, that's one thing about me is when it comes into negotiating, arguing, like, you know, I'm definitely on the debate team. I'm definitely there for a good debate and good negotiation. So I've always kind of been interested in real estate for that aspect. And then when I was working like background doing real estate as admin, I would just see a lot of like, especially the top agents, just kind of doing really kind of questionable things and kind of half-assed jobs. And I was like, these people are making so much money and like they have this cool job that I would love to do. And they don't seem to really put that much emphasis in what they're doing. And I was like, I feel like I could do that. And then when I became a real estate law clerk, and I was also doing wills and estates as well, I used to love when people would come and pick up their keys, especially the first time homeowners, knowing that I was involved in helping them and I would talk to them and, you know, help them iron out everything. And obviously it's so nerve wracking when you're purchasing a property and you're getting down to the tail end of it. And there's so much things that play into it. And so being able to help them through that whole process, I loved it. But then I thought, like, I want to be involved like through the actual home, like selecting process and helping them with the negotiations as well. Because again, I was seeing it from the back end and seeing a lot of things that was off to me. And I felt like I could do that. So that was one of the things. And then with wills and estates as well, just seeing people like, you know, having to transfer over deeds and just being really involved in that whole real estate aspect of it made me feel like I wanted to be the realtor as well to help the person find their dream home.
Yeah. Wills and estate. Oh, that one's a big one. I'll come back to that because I find a part of that with our community, we don't really take that into consideration until it's like too late.
Yeah.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, because I was attempting mine and it was really overwhelming when I was like, I don't know. I want to have all this responsibility. So I can only imagine how you were able to learn a lot from that. And people get grimy.
I've seen it, trust me.
My gosh, like we'll talk about that after. And Elizabeth?
So I started with credit. So I've have like over 15 years of credit experience. With real estate, it was something that I guess because I saw Michelle and I was inspired by Michelle even before she became a real estate agent and she was doing the administration part of it. I remember even saying to her, "Oh, I want to get in. I want to get a job there," kind of thing, right? So I've always kind of wanted to dip my foot in. But when you're in the corporate world, sometimes you get very comfortable of where you're at.
Absolutely.
How did I get into the credit world? It was actually not on purpose. I actually, was working at Wells Fargo, and then somebody pulled me over and said, "You want to do credit?" So then that's how I started, and I just kind of built myself up from there. But yeah, that's basically how I really got into real estate. Is seeing Michelle in her career and wanted to be a part of it. I've also had some experiences personally where I've worked with an agent, and it's like I felt like I was doing more work than I probably should be doing. And I'm sure that you hear that a lot from clients, where people say that, oh, I could just do this myself. And I kind of felt that way. I
Yeah.
actually, as I said, I like to take control. So like I would literally look up places for myself and literally call the agent and say, I want to look at this place.
Yeah.
And I'd probably drive my agent crazy. But the little things that I didn't get as for service is the things that I said I want to provide to our clients. To go back and say, I don't think our clients should have to do this, because like I should be able to do that. So we want to be able to take that as well and bring it in. And that's where the luxury part of us comes in, is us
Right.
taking that part and saying, okay, we're going to take that off of our clients' hands and let's give them the experience that they want when they're buying or selling a home.
Experiences are key to having a business. But I do want to go back to the credit. What did you learn when you're dealing with credit?
What I learned is that you need to have credit. A lot of people think that no credit is good credit. So I learned that very quickly. And what really inspired me to help women is because I saw a lot of women who didn't have credit because they were waiting for their husband, who was the head of the household, and the husband had all the credit. So now when they're trying to apply for financing, because I was in the financing world, they didn't qualify. And they never understood why they didn't qualify, because like, I don't have bad credit. Well, it's not the fact that you don't have bad credit, it's that you don't have any credit, honey. There's no history. I can't tell whether you're going to pay us or not, right?
Exactly.
And I felt like women needed to be educated on having financial independence. As I said, I'm married, so I'm not saying that, we just throw our husbands out and we don't need them. But what I'm saying is that you got to prepare for yourself and prepare for your kids, especially if your husband passes away. You got to be able to take over your home. You got to be able to take over the financing. So we shouldn't be walking blindly just because we're women.
No. No, that I love that you say that, because especially with women, it is important for them to know the finances. I also think it's important for both individuals to know what's happening, because there's going to be a time when one loved one is gone, and then once that situation happens and you have no idea what's happening with the bills or anything, you're like a deer in headlights and stuff. You're just like, what do I do? And you're really lucky if you have like, loved ones or family, children to be able to help you. But if you don't have if you don't understand what's going on, you're just gonna be pretty much screwed or dependent on others when you can be independent.
Right. And I think that's where people could take advantage of you. It's because you're already in a very sensitive situation, especially if it's somebody that passed away, or even if your husband leaves you or your other spouse leaves you. You're in a situation where you're hurting. And this is where people could come in and literally take advantage of you. So if you don't know, then, you're going to have people coming in and telling you information that it's not really accurate, just to benefit themselves.
Exactly. And then with the having credit, because most times when I talk about credit, I do mention like leveraging. Were you able to teach individuals about that, or it was more just like qualifying?
No, it was more just qualifying.
Okay. Because even though we how people, I'm not going to say, I want to say abuse credit, there are good ways to use credit.
Exactly.
Obviously, mortgages, leveraging, getting assets and stuff. So hopefully when you're, qualifying the ladies, they also know like, hey,
there's good credit.
On this shopping spree.
Right, exactly.
And I want to go back to the wills and estate. Michelle, what did you find with wills and estate? The good, bad, and ugly?
Yeah, there wasn't much good, I would say. You really see different sides of people when, their loved ones pass away. I saw people completely change when you're dealing with money. That can really change the tone of the situation. And then even as you were just speaking about understanding the finances, I actually had a situation like that where there was a wife who her husband had just passed away. And we were asking her, like, is there life insurance? Is there this? Is there that? She had no idea. And we were like, okay, just hand us everything that you have. We went through, we we're like, there's no life insurance. And it got to the point that the bank was getting ready to repossess the home because, first of all, she wasn't working. Her husband was taking care of everything and her name wasn't on the property. There was no way for her to even take over the property. Then at the last minute, I was putting the file away and then something dropped and it was like a little slip, like, when you got like something in the mail that says like your name and address. Yeah. And it said Sun Life on it. And it was the man's name. There was no account number because that part was ripped off. And I just, on a whim, decided to write Sun Life and say, this is the client's name. Do you have anything for this client? And sure enough, he had life insurance. And she was able to pay off the house with the life insurance. And it was like days before the bank was about to repossess it. So the thing is that had she had known that information, it would have been a lot easier, a lot less stress on her and everybody else. So like, it just goes back to your point.
Can you imagine how stressed she was?
Yeah, very. I got the calls every day.
Gosh. Well, I'm
she's lucky that she ran into somebody like Michelle, because some people would have just been like, okay, well, you don't have it, close the books and let's just move on, right?
Yeah.
That actually shows me that you are passionate about what you do and are very caring and thoughtful, because like you could have just been like, well, that's for you. Even if you saw the sunlight, you could have been like, well, I don't know what's gonna happen next. So but at least you were able to communicate with someone there. And so folks, ladies and gentlemen that's listening and watching, please make sure like you have a booklet of just things like your passwords or where things are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's important. Like, mind you, we have a safe. I'm not saying my stuff is in the safe, but I at least know that there's important things in there that I need if anything was to happen, right? And I think there should be at least a box that you have your things, like the important documents. Golly, that's a crazy story. What are some achievements, since there's sometimes bad things that happen? What's 2 achievements before, like in your business now, and then your careers before, that you can highlight? Big up yourself. You gotta hype yourself. You're like, pretty damn well. Either one.
All right. So I think for our business, I'll say the business, the achievements, we were in the business, I think 6 months, and we already got an award for our first year within 6 months. I think that was a great achievement because we're not coming from like a family of generations of real estate. We're just coming in and grabbing all the wealth and hooking up with the right people and working hard to help our clients. So that was, one of our biggest achievements that we have for the team. Outside of work for myself, I would say, just where my family's at. Family is very important to me. And I know with working in the corporate world, sometimes it's very hard to be there with your family. So, and I was driven in the corporate world. I was very driven. Like I went back to work after my 3 months of having my baby. I was very driven. And, after a while, you kind of realize that, you never get those years back. And I was able to stay home with my son, and now I have a little bit more flexibility. And just seeing my kids grow up and not grow up with, and my parents did well for us, but like, you still always want better for your kids, right? And my kids are not doing the things that I did back then. So I would say, just my family growing up and not making the same mistakes I did.
Okay. And Michelle?
So in business, I'd probably say the same, like the award, just winning that award so early on and working as a team. So that was like a huge accomplishment for us. Outside of being actually a realtor, in terms of professionally, there wasn't really achievements. I guess when you're a law clerk, there's not really achievements, I would say, but I'd probably say the same as Elizabeth, where I would say that my life in general is an achievement. Like for me, I left home when I was 16. I was totally hanging around with the wrong crowds, doing, things that people at that time were like, oh, she's never going to, be able to do this or be able to do that. Or so seeing where I am today, being married, owning my house, we own 2 properties now. And, my kids and like the way that my life is set up is an achievement, because I feel like I was kind of counted out because of choices that I made when I was a child. So I think that in itself is an achievement, even just my career and being able to step out and want to work on my own and wanting to build that career for my children and stuff. I feel like that is my greatest achievement.
Nice. And the fact that you were able to, let's say, because I sometimes call myself the black sheep, and able to move around and be successful and a leader and all that great stuff, and creating generational wealth.
Yes.
Properties. Ooh,
Yes.
Nice. Trying to remember the story that you had with your mom, that she was going. The reason why you ladies started this a little bit was because or your family, I should say, said, no, you can't have your dream home.
Oh, yes. That's what my parents were told, as immigrants coming to Canada, they were told they could never buy, in Mississauga, there was this area that they desired to live in, and they were told that they could never live in that area nor buy in that area. And they were able to accomplish that. And my parents, they grew their wealth by buying properties as well. They didn't have more than one at a time, but they knew how to buy a property, sit and wait, and then buy something else that was bigger. So like we started with all sharing rooms at one point in time, to the point that eventually we all had our own rooms and our own bathrooms, right? So but my mom, they worked hard. I mean, my mom, she worked 2 jobs, and my dad, like sometimes they never saw each other, but they worked really hard to try to get where they were at, so it was really important for us to teach also our mind that it's important for them as well to use what you have, use the equity, what you have.
True.
And to also and to invest into yourself and into your family. And a lot of people don't know that you can do that, but there's so many options that you can do with your equity, which you cannot get when you're renting.
That is very true. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think when it comes to our community, and they just don't know what they don't know. And I'm glad you ladies are teaching folks like, okay, so once you have this property, and you're living proof because you've seen your parents do it, so you know it's possible. So I'm pretty sure you've educated folks on how to do it and to do it wisely.
Yes.
And not to, you don't want to be like house poor or
Right.
pulling out everything, because especially right now,
Right.
especially right now. How were you able to educate folks about you pulling out equity in the first case?
I would say from experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's the best way to teach someone. I mean, you could
Mhm.
go through the textbooks, you know, if you want, but when you actually do it yourself, and then you
Yeah.
can say, oh my gosh, look what I've done.
Yeah.
Then you're able to say, okay, let me help you now. Let's go. We could do it together now.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because in our seminar that we put together, teaching about wealth and teaching about being able to buy real estate, we use one of the examples that we used was my first home to show how I was able to gain equity and then move up to a bigger home and to a better area that I would have wanted to be in. So we use our actual life experiences to teach, so that it's not like, it's not just a mundane idea. It's actually something that has been tested and tried and proved.
That, and I'm glad you mentioned seminars. Make sure guys tell me which seminar, or when's your next seminar actually? Or do you guys have it annually, or?
We are actually planning a first-time home buyers seminar. We haven't got our date yet, but it's looking going to be sometime in early October. So we're really excited about that. So once we get more information, we'll for sure let you know.
Okay, see, you guys heard it firsthand. Oh man, that's amazing that you're able to show folks lead by example. And I'm pretty sure it's helped a lot of ladies and families. And that generational wealth. But obviously, learning generational wealth, you didn't know everything at it all. So what were the things that you wish you knew about money when you were growing up?
I think I wish I understood a little bit more about credit and the importance of it. I think that when you become a certain age and you're able to get a credit card, like that's what's pushed to you to get a credit card.
Yeah.
And you don't have the knowledge and the understanding and the forethought to think at that young age that, okay, I have this is not free money. Like I'm literally going to ruin my credit. I'm able to get a phone now, great, but I got to pay the bill or else I'm going to have bad credit score. Like those things are not taught, especially, and parents try to tell their kids about it, but I don't think at that young age it's not to the point that it actually sinks in. It's not until you're older and then you're affected by the decisions that you made when you're younger that you think to yourself, I wish I knew how important this would be when I was older, then I would have made better decisions. So I think that like really teaching and really making sure that the young ones understand how important keeping a clean credit is like so important, something that I wish that I knew.
And I mean, when it comes to that, we do risque things when we're younger. And like I remember when I got a credit card, it wasn't a phone. Sometimes it was food, but I wish it was more practical things, or like getting assets. But I digress. Elizabeth, what are the things you wish you knew about money?
I wish I got into real estate earlier. I mean, buying real estate. And it's wonderful because I've seen people now who are like starting at like in their early 20s, and they're buying real estate. And that's why I wish I kind of jumped in a little bit earlier and started to invest. And because when you're younger too, you have a little bit more flexibility to kind of make more mistakes, right? Because you'll rebound a little bit more faster than somebody who's in their 50s, 60s. but like, I think that's when you should be getting into and like testing the waters and saying, okay, you know what, let me try to get my first property.
Yeah.
Okay, now what do I need to do to get my second property? I wish I kind of knew how to do that when I was younger.
Okay. And when was the first year that you got your first house? Both of you.
I got my
That's
first house, I think it was 2015.
Do you remember the year? I don't remember the year.
2015.
I don't remember the year. I'm really bad at years. I don't remember.
I think
I only remember because my son turned 1, 2015, and so I remember him being 1 year old when we moved in our first house.
Nice.
Yeah. Mine is earlier than that, because I would say maybe 16 years ago.
Okay. I was about to say before the last recession, 2008, but it could be.
Yeah, it was before then.
Okay. Oof. Okay.
And it was actually my mom that pushed me to do it. Like,
Mhm.
I didn't have any desire on buying property. I was,
Yeah.
I was young. I was married, but I was young, and and then my mom said, "I think it's time for you to buy real estate." I'm like, "Are you sure?"
I think
That sounds like a big step. Like, that sounds like responsibility.
that sounds like the perfect time, especially like around that way because of the way how the real estate's going now.
Yeah.
Do you ladies find the real estate? I know everyone always says it's about to pop or anything. Do you find that? Do you think it's gonna pop?
I don't think so. I
The
think it's
bubble?
broken.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's really a bubble.
I think that the bubble that we were in has already popped. I feel like now we're kind of back to normal real estate. And when I first got licensed myself in 2017, it was right the time when they brought in that stress test. So it was literally the same thing, because right before that, not to that extent, but like right before the stress test, there was multiple offers. Like the market was really, really hot. And then I got licensed and I got trained and I was starting to like get into it. And then all of a sudden the stress test came out, and like people just got so scared to buy that it was like so hard to be able to transact as a new realtor during that time.
Jeez. Yeah, I do remember that stress test. Oh, and just in case people are listening and they don't understand, what is the stress test?
So the stress test was something that I believe the Bank of Canada had brought out to basically, so let's just say that the interest rate was a certain percentage. They did a stress test, so they would qualify you at a different rate, a much higher rate, to see if you would actually qualify, even though that would not be your interest rate. They wanted to ensure that if interest rates did go to that high, that you would still be able to be okay to pay your mortgage. So you had to actually qualify at this new, much higher rate than was the rate at that time. So a lot of buyers at that time, due to the stress test, they were not able to qualify. And then some were not able to qualify for the houses that they would have been prior to the stress test actually coming out. So it was kind of like what's happening now, where a lot of buyers started getting really scared and they, wanted to hold off and see what was going to happen and how that was going to affect the market. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. And now, especially with, inflation is going up at the moment. And I think just this weekend, or I should say week, it went up 75 points again.
Yeah, the interest rates. But I feel like we need to remember where we came from, because I remember owning a home and my interest rate was 6%. Think about that. A couple of years ago, I don't remember what year, was it 2008? The interest rates were around that. Yeah. And I feel like right now we are worried about the interest rate, but that was the norm. I mean, 1%, 2%, even 3% really wasn't the norm. It's not what we used to live with. We used to live with 5%, 5.8%. That was the interest rates. Now there's a start increasing. And what people need to understand is the prices of homes are still decreasing, right? So, I mean, I'm not going to say it's the best time to buy it. I think it's best time to buy depending on everybody's situation.
True.
And everybody needs to figure out, you know, if it's the best time for them to buy or not. But I feel like don't let the interest rate and the media basically scare you. You need to look at the full picture.
Yes, for sure.
That is true. Don't follow the hype, because it will, discourage you to get property when there's so much opportunity out there, right? What's one thing that you want women in general to know about either getting property or even creating generational wealth?
I think it's the
Where do we
importance.
start?
Say it again?
What do you say, Michelle?
No, I said, where do we start?
Oh.
Right?
I think for me, like the first thing is, remembering that you have kids to leave things to. And I'm not just talking about buying homes, but like even when you think about your will, when you think about your life insurance, when you think about your investments, remember that we have kids, and we don't want to leave them in a situation that if you were to pass away, that they have to be trying to figure out what they're going to do or how they're going to live. We should be able to leave our kids with something. Not too long ago, people weren't allowed to buy homes. Black people weren't allowed to buy homes. Women weren't allowed to buy homes either. And now we have the ability to do that, to build wealth and to leave it for our kids. There is that gap, and that gap comes from our history. But now we have the opportunity to really step in and to buy. And I feel like if you're scared, you're nervous, I think that's normal. I was scared. I was nervous when I bought my first home. Like, am I going to be able to afford this? I was scared. I was nervous. But taking the first step is basically the first step.
Yeah. Get your feet wet.
Yes.
That's a good one. Especially because I don't know if you've heard this as well. And it's something I just want to discuss in a later episode, is some generations, not saying all, think that they should just take all the money and go and not leave it for the next generation. And
I've heard that recently. I've heard some celebrities saying that they're planning on not leaving things for their kids.
Sad. it's
I'm sorry, I just can't get behind that. I think that it's always good to be able to give your children a stepping stone, like to be able to give them a heads up. But I would say that with as much as they are saying that, especially those celebrities, and I want to ensure that people that are following that model, that they're not just looking at these celebrities, because what they have to understand is that even though they're not leaving money to their children, more than likely they're giving them properties, or they're also giving them access to their database, their connections, things that you and I don't have. So yes, the money is a good stepping stone, but even if they're not leaving their kids money, they're leaving them with something that can help them to create that wealth. Whereas the regular average, Joe and Jane, we don't have those top end connections for our kids. So being able to leave them with money and property that they can now use and leverage and continue to grow that wealth is something that I think is so important, especially for minorities and especially immigrants who came to this country that don't have all of those connections and all of those other things to be able to leave their kids with. If we can leave them, even if, I didn't have the best life prior to, if I own property and can leave that property for my kids, or I have life insurance and I can leave that for my kids, then that gives them a stepping stone in which they can also build off of and continue to grow.
Exactly. Instead of them going all back to square one,
Yes.
because that is one thing we don't want, right? Dang, that's a good point. And I'm glad that you ladies have like property or even knowledge or value to give to your loved ones or kids, so they'll be able to keep it going and the legacy to keep going. What is the next step with the business and all that good stuff?
Well, we have a few things. We do want to grow our team.
Okay.
So that's something that we want to do. We do meet with business women, entrepreneur women, and we want to be able to grow that network.
Mm-hmm.
And then what else we have going on, Michelle? I feel like there's something else and I'm missing it.
Well, yeah, it's just kind of expanding our team and even expanding our reach. So right now, obviously, we're licensed in Ontario, and in the future, our goal would be to expand outside of Ontario, expand outside of Canada, and continue to grow our team like that as well. So those are definitely some future goals. And obviously, we want to continue to educate women and minorities, and just continue to do what we're doing now.
Nice. I'm loving it because it is very important for us to teach women, especially minorities, the value of generational wealth and just having property. So I can't wait for the seminar to come up. I'll definitely be promoting that for you ladies. Is there any way that people can reach out to you? Because I did put it in the description, but let the ladies and gentlemen know. How can they reach out?
Okay, they can reach out anytime by phone on 416-909-6432. And our website is www.elmandoakrealestate.com.
Well, I did put in the description. So ladies and gentlemen, make sure you follow these ladies, because you could tell that they're passionate about what they're doing, hence the passion. And it's been a pleasure, like you ladies coming on and just having a lovely discussion about real estate and how you're passionate and generational wealth. That is the key for us to leave something, build something, and all that great stuff. Is there anything you ladies would like to say at the end? Or
I just want to thank you again for having us
Yes.
on your show. Really appreciate it. Great honor to be here. And so if anybody is looking to buy or sell or just even have questions on what does this mean for me, then reach out to us. Follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, we're everywhere.
Yes, and definitely ask questions like through your journey of wanting to purchase. As you mentioned earlier, like you don't know what you don't know. So it's so important to make sure that you're asking questions, because sometimes other realtors, they may not know to give you certain information. For us, we have experiences that allows us to bring out certain information, but if you're working with another realtor, they may not know to educate you in a certain area. So make sure that you're working with somebody that is well-rounded and that can give you the information that's going to protect you.
Exactly. I like how you said that, educating, because there's many people in the world that they do it, whether it's real estate, life insurance, whatnot, but not educating and why you should try it this way, or the ins and outs of certain things. And it just leaves folks confused. And we don't want that. I think the more we educate folks, the more they'll be able to prosper in the long run and all that good stuff. And of course, I loved you ladies being here. It was my pleasure. And make sure everyone likes, subscribe, share, tell a friend, and all that good stuff. And just on that note, I'm gonna, hold on. Ooh. The struggle is real, but on that note, we're going to sign out. And usually I have Andre's song. You guys didn't get to meet Andre, but he was in the chat. So
Okay.
one day you ladies will meet him and all that good stuff. But until now, okay, you know, production part is always the tricky part. But see, boom, I have your photo. Hey. How do I get the photo? All right. On that note, ladies.
Anywhere.
God of Fame Music.
A ville, flip, floss, money, literacy boss. Flip, floss, money, literacy boss. Flip, floss, money, literacy boss. Flip, floss. Anywhere, chop, flip and floss, money, literacy boss.